Hello. Hello? Isang call, ano pa siya call,
This project for over a year. I have released the world download on my Patreon, but stay tuned to find out everything you need to know about the map and see for yourselves what is brought to life. So to get started in my enormous quest to transform the world's most popular game, Steph and I spent hours researching and discussing how we can make one giant island that can somehow contain virtually every key aspect of the game. We sketched out a general layout for the ultimate survival world island, which would span across 16 million blocks. Yep, you heard that correctly. If you stacked up every Minecraft block in this map, you could nerd pole through the center of the earth and still have millions of blocks to spare. We tried to place the environments in the most logical way possible, so you're not walking around from the freezing snowy mountains straight into the scorching hot desert. We even thought about some of the themes and real-world inspirations we can include in different areas. So with the layout planned, I jumped into World Painter to bring this epic plan to life in Minecraft. I built a huge mountain range for the snowy biome, broke up the island with some rivers and lakes, dug out a grand canyon in the mesa, added sand dunes in the desert, and painted on the different biomes so that they really fit the game. And as you can see, this island is enormous, and we have a heck of a lot planned to fill it. To give you just a tiny teaser of what to look forward to, I planned an epic Wild West inspired town and railroad for the mesa, an abandoned ancient city for the jungle, a dwarven kingdom in the deep dark caves, and so much more. That's not to mention all of the hidden Easter eggs, backstory, challenges, and custom loot, along with tons of insane ideas that you guys have come up with. With our empty island ready, I pasted in all of the vanilla structures ready for me to upgrade. First, I added villagers into every biome, including those that don't naturally spawn villagers. Next, I added in a bunch of hidden outposts across the map, which will also be themed based on their location. And finally, I placed all of Minecraft's structures. Transforming, I'll be adding some of my own custom structures as well. With the structures in place, I moved on to the vanilla trees, placing them across the entire map to simulate how they would spawn in a naturally generated Minecraft world. And I have to admit, I did add some oak tree clusters to the plains, even though they don't usually spawn there. It felt way too bare without them. And so our vanilla Minecraft map is ready for a big transformation. So let's get started with the plains. For our first transformation, I wanted to keep things pretty simple and true to the original game, especially since the plains is the most common biome in Minecraft, and it's the central hub and spawn point of our island. The first transformation to tackle are the oak trees scattered across the plains. I built several trees in a more realistic style in different sizes, and replaced the vanilla ones with our shiny new ones throughout the biome. The environment was still looking pretty empty, so I also created some small bushes and boulders to help populate the empty space and break up the landscape a bit. Before transforming the outpost in the village, I upgraded the island's ruined portal, which, when repaired, will lead to an epic transformation of the Nether. I played with the design a little, but ultimately settled on this stone archway, which nicely mimics the original design, just upscaled and a bit more dramatic. I added some damage and nether materials to make it look as though the nether blasted through to the overworld when this portal was first made by the island's resident witches, who inhabit the mushroom swamp down south. According to USW legend, the portal was destroyed by the plains villagers to prevent the Piglin clan from wreaking havoc on the overworld after the witches tried to steal resources from the nether. Spooky stuff, but it makes a pretty epic centerpiece for the island. But it makes a pretty epic centerpiece for the island. At the other end of the plains, I'd placed down a pillager outpost, so I headed there for the next upgrade. Now I thought it'd be cool to match the materials with the sources of wood accessible in this biome, so I switched out the dark oak for some lighter oak, and topped off the tower with the pillager faction's railroad flag. The villagers who inhabit this camp are actually ex-villagers from the Plains village who are stationed here to guard the border from the witch coven that inhabits the mushroom swamp. It's It's no wonder they're hostile to strangers, with witches living so nearby. To complete the pillager outpost camp, I took some of the small decorations that can spawn at an outpost tower and made some tweaks, just to enhance what you usually come across in vanilla. I updated the tents, training dummies, cages, and also added some of my own decorations, including a fire pit and bundles of oak logs. I used these new assets to decorate and surrounded the campsite with a spiked wood wall for a handmade look. Now this really looks like a fortified base put together by the pillagers themselves. To add an extra line of defense for our witch hunting pillagers, I added 2 guard towers either side of the entrance, trying to match it with the design of the main tower. And that's our outpost upgrade complete. Witch Biome's outpost upgrade are you most excited to see? And to finish up the plains, I headed to the village. Now, in Minecraft, villagers can have a variety of professions which give you different options for trading. A villager's profession is determined when a specific block is placed near them. But a lot of the time, their houses don't actually reflect their job roles that much. This is something I thought would really elevate the Minecraft survival experience. So I decided to enhance all of the profession buildings, choosing different selections for all of my village transformations. In the plains, I dedicated my first building to the local fishermen. I branched off from the large lake with a river leading to a small pond and repurposed one of the original village houses for the fishermen to live in. I kept things really simple for these designs, with the plains being our most true to vanilla transformation on the whole island. There'll be plenty of crazy builds elsewhere. I added a couple of little piers, which will make nice fishing spots for both our villagers and for you guys, and I couldn't resist building some small fishing boats out on the lake. Next, I decided to make a windmill for the local farmer. The poor farmers in default Minecraft villages don't get a cool house to live in. They're just out tending to their crops all day. So I figured a quaint windmill would make a nice little home for our plains farmer. For the next section, I actually added a totally custom edition, a beekeeper and a little bee haven. Obviously, vanilla Minecraft doesn't have a beekeeper profession, but I thought this was such a cool way to include the game's bees in the village and give that aspect of the game a little revamp. With a large space left in front of the windmill, I of course had to add a crop farm. The villagers here are definitely hungry for some veg to go with their fish. I divided the farm up into 3 fields, one for wheat, one for potatoes, and another for carrots, also making a stream through our water source. With the farm finished, I worked on the layout for the rest of the village, creating some new, more natural looking paths, and quickly upgrading the village bell before gradually repositioning the remaining village buildings. Next up, I made some small tweaks to the librarian's house, and of course, I'm upgrading all of these interiors as I go as well. Throughout these transformations, I'll be showing you some of the interiors I've created, but I'm also going to be leaving a lot for you guys to decide to look at. Anyway, I topped up the library with a small bell tower before working on the stone roof. To suit the profession, I used more stone in this design and repurposed one of the gables for shelter positions. I added some custom boulders, and out back I even created this village quarry, featuring this large, orchestrated on driver, self-off dimension villager, with up in the background. For these little screen decorations, I whipped little market square where the villagers can trade and sell goods. When you go over here, you can upgrade these market screens by giving the villagers professions that are trading and replenish your supplies between your ventures. And with the back to the market, I added a travelling wagon to the play. Where it's covered in different I was physically torn into the chest. So I put the wagon to the building counter to the village, because the parents to sell mysterious products as well. So you might find these mysterious covered merchants and wagons across the market. To wrap up our market square, I added a supply cart and benches before moving on to the stage. So across the we're transforming our villagers' paper work with different villages and taking inspiration from around the world to create our own country. This church-inspired building is that bigger than I expected. Honestly, it looks a bit more like a cathedral, but it still felt like a tiny building. Finally, I revamped the remaining village houses for our mission, for ability to live in, and stacked them around the village before coming to I created a little fancy design outside the church, placed some hay barrels, whipped up a lamppost design, transformed the flower pot design, and stacked the lights and bubbles. And that's our plain biome upgraded. So let's take a look at the
crazy. You know why?
It's crazy for you. And it's delicious. Right there.
Pizza this awesome was meant to be shared. Red Baron. I thought the mushroom and swamp biomes complemented each other nicely, so I combined them to create the ultimate spooky, witch-infested island. To connect our mushroom swamp to the main island, I built a medieval-style gatehouse and bridge before adding some damage to the middle section. Even the three bridges have stationed an outpost so close to the border. This peculiar-looking island once looked much like the plains, with fields, trees, and quaint little houses. Until one day, a child from the plains
The back screen.
the bridge, and her curiosity took her across. She spotted a beautiful glowing altar in the centre of the village and went to investigate, discovering an assortment of crystals, candles, and dried flowers shrouded in a vibrant green glow. Curious, she picked up one of the crystals and heard a loud shriek from the other side of the mysterious village. She accidentally broken an ancient spell used by a coven of witches to disguise themselves from the outside world. The girl made a run for the bridge. As her surroundings began to transform around her, the terrain became more menacing, the fields were becoming waterlogged, the trees were transforming into giant mushrooms, and the once quaint houses started to look unusual and creepy. As the girl neared the end of the bridge, the witch who had discovered her sent a spell after her in an attempt to protect the coven's secrets. The girl escaped unscathed, but the bridge was badly damaged. Since that day, no one has ventured to the island to see what remains. Some even say there's a mysterious ogre who lives deep within the swamp. And so that wraps up our spooky mushroom swamp fascination. For our desert transformation, I kicked things off by rearranging the vanilla village layout to create a clear village centre and main street, taking a little inspiration from Breath of the Wild's Gerudo Town. With the main strip laid out, I repositioned the village buildings neatly either side, prioritising the larger ones and the profession buildings, leaving the remaining buildings and decorations for later. Our first profession building of the village is none other than the Shepherd. This shepherd is actually a very important character in US lore, as he once lived in the sandstone ruins which lie just across the dunes. In fact, the villagers who lived here narrowly escaped a grisly fate and rebuilt their lives in this village after they escaped the evil pharaoh who once ruled these lands. Anyhow, next up, I built a house for the stonemason. I tried my best to match these buildings to the surrounding environment, meaning they're predominantly made up of lighter materials that are found in the area, to beat off that scorching desert sun, with colourful draped cloth providing some shade. And with our stonemason complete, I moved on to the village library, for which I took inspiration from mosque architecture. I tweaked this design a little later, as I didn't want to take away from my transformation of the vanilla place of worship, which is coming up. Honestly guys, the best part about building this for survival is that I get to challenge myself with different themes whilst keeping things survival friendly, which includes adding interiors to every single building. Now moving on to the toolsmith. I stuck to the same theme here, but added plenty of furnaces so the local toolsmith can forge and create a variety of tools for their fellow villagers to use. I then whipped up this gatehouse to guard the entrance of the village, before transforming some more large houses to make things feel more bustling and opulent. And to finish off the main desert village, I built a grand mosque to house the cleric at the back of the village, fitting pretty nicely with our Egyptian inspirations. Throughout this project, I really wanted to influence our designs and lore with real-life cultures and histories. Even though it's all fantasy and not intended to be accurate, Steph and I wanted this project to be inclusive and unique. For this particular place of worship, I used the Mosque of Muhammad Ali as a reference to create my own design, and seeing as the desert and jungle are historic allies in the ultimate survival world, it was only fitting that the jungle supplied the desert with some new wood to rebuild their village following their escape from the evil pharaoh. So you might spot some jungle wood around the village, which complements the sandstone and terracotta really nicely. Finally, with all of our larger buildings complete, I was left with a bunch of very small and scattered throughout the town. These custom houses are still very simple in design and are pretty much still just square buildings, but I added plenty of small details and colour variation to really make it immersive to explore. Moving on to the decorations, I transformed the pile of scattered hay, adding it to the back of a wagon, and housed the village bell in some sandstone. I then added the wagons throughout the town and placed the bell at the end of the main street. And for a final touch, I upgraded the almighty desert well. Down the ground, the village looks even busier, with market stalls cluttering Main Street, greenery clinging to the village buildings, and apparently all of the villagers want to go for a swim. So, let's move on, shall we? So moving on to one of the most popular vanilla structures in Minecraft, the Desert Temple. And first things first, I basically quadrupled the size of it because I wanted to create a truly epic spectacle in our desert. The entrance of the original Desert Temple looks somewhat like a face, so I thought a massive skull would work perfectly to replicate this on a much more grand scale. Plus it's a great way to ward off attackers. Centuries ago, the evil pharaoh forced his subjects to build this temple home to store his vast collections of treasures. He fell into an obsession and a dangerous greed for such things, leading to the summoning of a merciless demon from the nether. I mean, that was never going to end well, was it? Anyway, this skull was actually from an old building line, so I made tons of adjustments to the sculpt to make sure it fit nicely as an entrance to the temple, finishing up by igniting the skull's eye sockets and creating a staircase leading inside. The other main feature of the Vanilla Temple's design are these two large towers that sit on the front two corners of the pyramid. On these pillars, the pharaoh demanded that the eyes of the sun god and the moon goddess were to be etched, as he believed that this would grant the building and its precious contents protection during both the day and the night. On the second level of the tower, I built a statue loosely based on an ancient Egyptian Medjay. The Medjay were an elite force used to protect valuable areas, so they're a perfect addition to our paranoid pharaoh's temple. Next, I added crenellations and built a snake symbol on the other side, as this was used to symbolise royalty in ancient Egypt. Plus, our evil pharaoh wanted to remind those pesky sandstone villagers who were crops. And to top these menacing towers off, I added a couple of giant fire braziers before completing the exterior by splitting the main body of the pyramid into 3 sections and creating walkways on each level. I added further fire braziers to decorate and a protruding section on the pyramid side to create some side entrances and make the shape a little more interesting. I then repositioned our desert temple in the terrain, blending the sand dunes to sit much more there. And of course, we can't forget the interior. I wanted to go for a very clean interior to match that of the vanilla pyramid, and to leave plenty of space for the pharaoh's collection of treasures. Although, they're actually no longer hidden, so I think you might have to search for them elsewhere. Our menacing pyramid is complete, and beneath lies the pharaoh's tomb, filled with the remaining treasure and secrets. Just be sure you don't miss a step, as it's rigged with booby traps. And to add that Trixie Blocks twist to this desert, I wanted to include a few custom builds, starting with the sandstone ruins. The desert people who once lived here grew tired of the evil pharaoh's cruelty, so they sought the help of the jungle to overthrow him. The pharaoh grew wise to this point, and in his anger, he summoned the Wither to wreak havoc on the people. But the Wither turned on the pharaoh after destroying the ancient village and leaving it in ruins. As you can see, many of the people fled to other regions before returning to their homeland years later to start again, gradually establishing themselves in the nearby village. These ruins are a reminder of the destruction caused by the last known person to summon a Wither. Perhaps until one day an epic Minecrafter like you will take on the challenge. These ruins are great fun to explore, and you may just find some old hidden treasure and store it there. Another feature I wanted to add to spice up the desert was an oasis or two, so I dug out an area and built several palm trees at various heights. I pasted them in clusters and decorated with plenty of green. I included a bunch of tropical fish and even a few turtleheads as well. stumbling across these on your adventures could be a real lifesaver, but you better just hope that it's not all just a mirage. Moving away from the desert and towards the beaches, it's time to transform Minecraft's shipwreck. Now this particular shipwreck was struck by a devastating spell by the nearby witch coven on the mysterious Mushroom Swamp Island. Pirates from a distant land had got their hands on the first clue to the treasure hunt leading to the lost treasure of the evil pharaoh and made their way to the island. They ventured too close to the witch's domain, leaving their ship wrecked on the USW beaches, and the pirates themselves seemingly lost to the sea. So with our lovely, unbroken ship built, it's time for a little destruction. These kind of tweaks take a ton of manual work, but the results are always worth it. After fixing things up, I built some tattered sails hanging limply from the masts after being left to rot. Perhaps on the inside, there are some clues about what really happened, or even the first riddle to a huge treasure hunt involving dangerous quests that span across the entire map. And I guess you'll have to find those out for yourselves. And since I've already placed another vanilla shipwreck on the beach next to the jungle, I decided to change things up and make this into an actual ship, sailing in to explore the uncharted lands of the jungle. I made some changes to the colour scheme of the hull and added the shrouds, which is the rigging that stabilises the masts. And then I worked on the sails, which took a little bit of time as I made them organic, as though the wind is blowing into them at a slight angle. I added in a full sail at the front before finishing the rest. Since I was going for that black pearl vibe, I thought it would only be appropriate if the sails followed suit. I suppose she looks a little less tatty and weather-beaten, but I guess this was around the time when Captain Jack first obtained the ship, so she's not too battered and bruised yet. Here you can see her in all of her glory approaching the jungle's beach. Perhaps there's something hidden there. Captain Jack wouldn't be making this journey for nothing. You'll also find a rowboat actually. Let's hope those pirates don't nab whatever they're looking for before you guys get the chance. And our desert transformation is complete. First things first, in our dark forest, I removed the original dark wood trees to make way for our brand new wood. And as you can see, I really wanted to upgrade the scale of these trees dramatically to create a spooky fantasy forest like something from a fairy tale. And because I'm building a survival-friendly world, I had to ensure that the trees had enough branches to stop the leaves from decaying once placed. I ended up building 4 different trees, making sure they had enough variation in height and shape to avoid a repetitive looking forest. I thought it would make sense to create a few little man-made bridges to connect the plains biome to the dark woods at different ends of the biome. Perhaps this was built by the villagers to aid in travelling across to trade in each other's biomes. Okay, now it's time for some major changes. I really wanted to add a bit of variation to the landscape, especially around the main village, as the biome previously felt way too flat. So I quite literally repositioned and pasted an entire mountainscape. Then, I cut through the entire biome to create a river flowing through and connecting to the large lake in the centre of the biome. With that done, I started layering the landscape up, as this would be the foundations for our new village. As you can see, I dug out a few routes for some rivers and waterfalls, stemming from a large lake of water that sits behind the village, encased in some mysterious mountain peaks. With a lot of the main terraforming complete, I started to fill out the forest with those trees up. Before placing the rest of the trees, I wanted to include a small lake with a monument in the centre. Legend says that one of the most powerful swords in the land was placed there by a mysterious wizard, who claimed that only a worthy adventurer would be able to retrieve it. Do you reckon you'll be up to the challenge? Now we've got to fill out the remaining half of the biome to finish our dense darkwood forest. Honestly, when you guys play this, you will never run out of a wood supply. You could build an entire kingdom from chopping down even just one of these trees. And if you can't face chopping down all of my creations, you can always make yourself a tree farm from the saplings. Anyway, before moving on, we've got to fill this forest with some shrubbery and rock clusters. Placing these custom bushes and rocks around really fills out the forest floor, making it much more dense and like an overgrown woodland. These decorations literally cover the entire biome, so you won't want to stray too far from the pathway, otherwise you might get lost. And this is our magical forest, ready for some epic builds. If you look around closely, you'll even find fireflies in this biome when you're exploring in Java. Now, since the main pathway weaves throughout the forest, I whipped up a bunch of bridges to cross the cliff sides and allow access between each section of the biome. So starting with the first of our profession-based buildings for the Darkwood Village, the cleric, or I suppose in this case, the rabbi. Now, as mentioned in earlier chapters, I'm changing things up for the village church and using different inspirations for places of worship across the biomes. So far, I've been inspired by a church in the Plains biome, a mosque in the desert, and for the Darkwood, I decided to refer to synagogue architecture. The synagogue is a Jewish place of worship, but can also double as a place to study and a community centre as well. So it's a perfect centrepiece for our forest village. Now, after researching into the architecture of a typical synagogue, I discovered that they're not limited to a particular style or shape. They vary in design quite a lot. However, the most notable features I found from reference images of real-life synagogues were large, circular windows sandwiched between two towers with vault-like roofs. So I used this as a reference point and added my own twists. Which alternative place of worship would you most like to see in my life? As for the interior of the synagogue, I discovered that the style and layout seemed to vary quite a bit. The only thing that did seem to persist were archways overlooking balconies either side, rows of pews, and a raised platform. You can access the second floor via the front towers, and with the design laid out, I mirrored it to the other side of the building. I realised how massive I ended up making this building once I attempted placing it down. I guess I was kind of compensating for the fact that the Dark Forest doesn't spawn its own villages in default Minecraft. Our second profession-based building is for the village cartographer. I settled on a peaked roof, fantasy style for this building, which will loosely persist throughout the remainder of this village. Obviously, because the cartographer lives here, I had to include a separate lookout tower that connects to the side of the building. I then tackled the next profession building, the weaponsmith. The plan for this building layout was to follow the same sort of design as the vanilla building, with the main forgery and large furnaces residing on a stone platform work area that's attached to the side of the building. You'll also notice I added a slight curvature to the rooftops of each building using slabs and trapdoors. That, in combination with diagonal building, is super time consuming. Honestly, I don't really know why I do this to myself. With the weaponsmith complete, I had to accompany it with an armourer. You can actually see the vanilla armourer building to the right, which of course I used as reference. And with the main profession buildings complete, I placed them at different levels across the village. As for filling up the remaining space, I used my trusty red quill to plot out a guideline for the remaining village houses. From that, I started building up individual village houses on loads of different houses. I really limited my use of world edit here and had to create these houses by hand, but it avoids repetition and creates a way more immersive environment for you guys to explore, especially with all of the interiors. Now, to add even more variation to the village and to enhance that fantasy theme, I included some Hobbit-inspired houses embedded in the different layers of the game. I built the original Hobbit house normally and had to include a few diagonal variants along the final top layer of the village. Even though I didn't plan to include the farming profession in this biome, I thought it would fit nicely in one of these flat spaces I created up on the hillside. Plus, I couldn't believe these villages going through them. And to bring our little custom village to life, I redesigned a few small decorations, including a cart, a small flower bed, a lantern, a bell, and a well to scatter around the village. But it was still missing a little catch-up. So, the hidden lake behind the village has a mystery of its own. A crazy old wizard lives up there. He spends his days trying to unravel the mysteries of the ultimate survival world. The cursed treasure of the evil pharaoh from the desert, the eerie beach shipwreck, the peculiar coven of witches in the mushroom swamp biome, the bizarre disappearance of the wealthy family who lived in the nearby Woodland mansion, and much, much more. Perhaps this kooky old guy has discovered something more about this surreal island and its secrets, not to mention the legendary Big Treasure. As you can see, I went for a traditional wizard tower vibe, sticking with the materials that match the rest of our Darkwood forest. To make this tower a little more wacky and puzzling, I added plenty of smaller rooftops to the main tower to finalise the design. And that's our custom village complete. So, what do you guys think?
To my Nepal, I leave my plants. Textile, auto, and steel.
Objection. And finally, we're moving on to the Woodland Mansion, which literally could have been an entire video on its own. So as you can see, I'm starting with the entrance and really trying to channel a menacing vibe into my building. Now I've seen a few Woodland Mansion transformations that give off a sort of ski lodge or log cabin vibe, which is cool, but I think a mansion should look a little more intimidating and ominous. For the main entrance, I opted for this grand design with 3 feature windows at the top and a harshly sloped roof. Even though the original Woodland Mansion's roof is super flat, I thought I could take that feature and put my own spin on it with a harshly sloped roof, since it still has a large surface area. To make the front even more grand and imposing, I decided to add towers on either side. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm definitely getting spooky vibes already. I got to work adding plenty of details while still maintaining some semblance of the original design before repositioning things so that the serious building can start. Once said to be home to a rich family of merchants, this ominous mansion contains many secrets. Trading across the vast regions of the ultimate survival world, this family learned many secrets about the island, its history and its inhabitants. Many attempted to infiltrate the mansion in hopes of uncovering ancient secrets or hidden treasure. But the wizard cast protective enchantments to help keep the family safe. One day, the family mysteriously disappeared without trace, and the mansion is now said to be home to far more fearsome inhabitants. I wonder if you guys will be able to work out what really happened. Anyhow, with the front and sides of the mansion complete, I thought it would be cool to create a courtyard in the centre, with a bunch of walkways, balconies, roof variation, and even a clock tower. I mean, it doesn't actually work, but hey, it's still accurate twice a day. I then finished up by adding tons of extra details. These kinds of features take tons of time to plan and design, but they can really elevate your Minecraft build to a whole new level. I don't know about you guys, but I can definitely imagine the merchant family living here in its heyday. Now with the exterior of our new mansion complete, I spruced up the surrounding environment to match our shiny new build. I whipped up several mountains to surround the mansion and provide a more interesting and intimidating backdrop. Having said that, I actually returned here later in the project and made some drastic improvements to the terrain after learning more building techniques. But that's for a later chapter. Lastly, I added in the trees, rocks and shrubbery we created earlier to finish this section of the Darkwood forest. And of course, we created that perfect opening in the middle of our mansion for a courtyard. So I decorated it with pathways, bushes, flowers and a fountain. As a final addition to the mansion, I mixed in different block materials to add texture and wear and tear to the mansion. It is abandoned after all. So, that just leaves the enormous task of tackling the interior. First things first, I dissected the vanilla mansion just to see the different types of rooms we're dealing with. That way, I could really make this an authentic upgrade. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to paste the hallways and rooms into the new mansion and directly transform them. However, I can build an interior that follows the same kind of style to the vanilla version, just with larger rooms and much more detail. As you can see, our new mansion was initially a hollow shell for the most part, with some remnants of the vanilla interior. So I cleared it out in preparation for all of our new rooms. Using an assortment of my trusty coloured wool, I mapped out the ground level of the mansion, marking out hallways, rooms and staircases. Of course, the first room you need as soon as you walk into the front door of the mansion is a grand entrance. The main reason I started here was because I planned to keep this entrance very open plan, allowing access from all 3 floors of the mansion to balconies with a view all the way down to the bottom floor. As for the hallways, the most notable on either side that line of walls, so I recreated that in my own style. I made sure to add plenty of small decorations which took up the majority of time, from banners to plant pots, paintings, armour stands and cobwebs to add that creepy and abandoned vibe we're going for. That's not to mention all the special loot and lore related items. I then tackled the second floor, plotting out all the different rooms and decorating the long winding hallways. And not forgetting the third floor, where I had to plan and decorate yet again, making sure to include plenty of chests, which of course means lots of equipment for you guys. So starting with the first main room, I decided this mansion needed a grand kitchen. So I added a laundry area, a large cooking area, a classic checkered kitchen floor, and some tables for food. I then added some sinks, lighting, chests, towels, well, banners, and a whole lot more to really bring the kitchen to life, as if it was left this way many years ago when the Darkwood merchants disappeared. Next up is the grand bedroom. We can't have a mansion without a classic four-poster bed. I also added a nice big rug, a bookshelf, a little grandfather clock, a wardrobe, and some armour stands. His family's ancestors were famously members of the USW Order of Knights, so they have a pretty sweet collection. Another essential room in a classic mansion is a big old dining room, so that's our next stop. I added this long table and chairs as well as some decorations, and of course taking a few bits of cake to keep me going through all of this building. Now for a cozy library, where the merchant family wrote their diary entries and gathered to tell each other stories. Honestly guys, I don't think anyone could read all of these bits in one life. Just to quickly show you guys some of the other many rooms I spent hours adding, including vanilla upgrades and new additions, we have a once cozy lounge and study area, a fully stacked wine cellar for the family's partying, an upgrade of the villager statue room, which might just be linked to the ancient relics in the jungle biome, and finally a chest room crammed full to the brim with chests. As well as these main rooms, there are a bunch of smaller rooms throughout this huge mansion. Last but not least, we have the abandoned zombie village to tackle. For this area, I adapted some of the Darkwood village buildings so they looked a little more ruined and abandoned. If you're wondering why this village has been left like this, it all started many years ago when a plague began to spread throughout the community. It almost took over the whole village, with some survivors fleeing to the Darkwood village. Terrified that they might have brought this plague with them, the Darkwood villagers would not allow the survivors to settle down. With nowhere else to go, the outcasts surviving villagers fled across the river to the jungle and turned to a life of pillaging. Their story continues in the jungle chapter. But anyway, as you can see, this little fishing village would have been a picturesque little community in its heyday. Maybe as a side quest, you guys will be challenged with the task of cleansing the village of the plague to restore the community to its prime. And with the rest of the trees and forest decorations added, let's take a look at all of our progress. It's time for some major terraforming, although we've got to keep things survival friendly as usual. Now I know I'm going a bit crazy with the terraforming here, but hear me out. We've tackled some biomes so far that are typically super flat, including the plains and the desert. So I thought, why not give you guys some really cool landscape to explore in the jungle? Since I wanted to create a super intricate landscape to really immerse you guys in your jungle adventures, I actually spent 2 weeks making manual edits to this terrain to get it just right, as this was before I learned some of the terrain tools that you'll see me using in later chapters. There will be plenty of secrets to explore, including a custom abandoned mine shaft with its own ores featuring later in this chapter, along with literally dozens of custom caves and dungeons, which will be coming in the finishing touches chapter. I added tons of variety to these mountains and made them very dynamic, decorating them with plenty of caves, rocky overhangs and steep cliffs. To break up the mountain range even further, I mapped out a route for plenty of valleys, rivers and waterfalls that connect back into the ocean surrounding the ultimate survival mode. And of course, I made a big stone island for our jungle temple to sit on. Speaking of water, with our landscaping complete, I started filling up our valleys with blue wool, which would eventually become the various rivers and waterfalls of the jungle valley. Now I've used this technique before on the channel, and it's the best possible way to achieve some really nice looking waterfalls and rivers without Minecraft's water physics breaking through and filling up the entire map. To finish off our shiny new jungle landscape, I added grass, moss and plenty of foliage to add a little life to the basic terrain. And as you can see, compared to the size of my character, this place is huge. But it's still very empty, and jungles are typically known for being, well, the complete opposite of that. So to turn our epic landscape into an actual jungle, I created a few variations of palm trees and jungle trees, an assortment of shrubs, plants and bushes to add greenery to the jungle floor, and of course some custom boulders and rocks. Now, I had to start in true Jumanji style and create some giant statues to guard the entrance of what will soon be a legendary ancient city. To give you guys some context, the jaguar was worshipped in Mayan culture and it's often associated with power, bravery and foresight. Similarly, this jungle civilization built a pair of these powerful figures to not only protect their city, as they worship the jaguar for saving them from a horde of giant jungle spiders. The jaguars also encourage the worthy to tackle the maze, empowered by these symbols of foresight and bravery watching over them. We'll return to this mysterious maze of the jaguar shortly, but with our jaguar statue almost complete, I made a few small tweaks before repositioning either side of this gap between the mountains. To kick off this ancient city, we need to upgrade the vanilla jungle temple that's going to sit smack bang in the middle of it. Of course, I had to listen to you guys and take inspiration from Mayan, Incan and Aztec architecture for this one. Remember though, these creations are meant to be accurate to real life, and if you don't see your favourite cultures or architectural styles in this world, you definitely will when I make the next one. Anyhow, I've transformed the original temple, attempting to incorporate a similar style and size. Well, actually, this isn't the whole thing, this is just the top of the temple. I guess I lied to you about the size. Since the jungle temple has been tackled in Minecraft so many times before, even by me, I tried to create something unique for this world, incorporating lots of different elements to each layer of the building. So, what did this intricate temple mean to the ancient jungle city? Well, every year, many of the city's people will undertake a perilous pilgrimage across the vast jungle landscape, searching for the 4 elemental protected totems. At each totem, they would leave valuable offerings and perform rituals to preserve the power of the sacred elements, which were essential for the city's survival. After finding earth, wind, fire and water, the pilgrimage would finish at the temple, and those who succeeded were celebrated in a grand ceremony as saviors of the city and were provided with many valuable benefits for the next year. And that wraps up the exterior of our jungle temple transformation. And so, to tie our temple to its equally grand surroundings, I did some terraforming to make some space for the main bridge to the city, creating walkways to connect things up, as well as some wall foundations around the base of the temple to support this massive structure. At the front of the temple, I created this Mayan-inspired statue head that will act as a water duct. I added some streams that filter off through these stone channels and out the mouth of these abstract faces to add a really magical vibe to the temple. For the interior of our giant new jungle temple, I was able to include mini roofways, balconies and other areas for you guys to explore with plenty of hidden loot thanks to the multiple levels of this structure. As you can imagine, this temple was hugely important to our jungle civilization, being fundamental to many of their rituals and ceremonies. It's even rumoured that the Jungle King is buried deep within the temple with his most precious possessions, protected by dozens of ruby traps. Also, you may recognise the village epic statues from a previous Unix chapter. Given the plethora of sacred artifacts found in our ancient jungle city, there are many tales of adventurers who travel here, including members of the merchant family from our Woodland Mansion. In fact, you may have spotted that they had orchestrated a grand heist to steal a sacred statue from the city, which still remains in their mansion to this day. And it's rumoured that this was the source of their bad luck and eventually disappearance. Anyway, with the temple finally complete, I headed back outside and made friends to my own way in
You was cold dead. So, you was a clown dickhead.
They do. See who we got in the label now. We got in the label. We just got the young boy over here.